Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Friday, wrapping up the week. Hope everybody's going to have a great weekend. Get out there and enjoy it if you can. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And I don't know if you saw this. It has absolutely nothing to do with financial news. But you see that case on death row in, I want to say it was Alabama. There's a prisoner that apparently now, I guess this is what we come down to. We can't execute prisoners, I guess, in a humane way. This guy survived an execution last year. I don't know how that happened, right? But you know, I guess apparently we've gone backwards and don't know how to do it anymore. This time they gave the guy nitrogen gas, right? And apparently, Jason, you know, and you get it, right? Oh, my gosh, the convulsing, and it took too long, and all of these things. You know, maybe we just need to go back to the firing squad, or maybe the guillotine, right? I mean, you go back to the old times.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know, it was sometime last year we talked about this. I brought it on the air, and he's not the only one. This is the second guy that this has happened to. And just to be clear, that the things they did to try to get this guy dead, I mean, they have it, I guess the table moves. You could put him in a cross position or an upside down cross position. The guy was bleeding at all the times they were poking him. It wasn't working. And this guy that you're talking about specifically asked not for lethal injection because he said it would not work on him. And they denied him.
Wow. See, so there you go. I didn't know. You know, get the guy. You know, the guy with the black hood, right? You know, let's get that guy out with, I don't know, I'll call it an axe. I know it's not an axe, but, you know, just tie his hands behind it, get a big piece of wood and just, right? And there you go. But, of course, you know, I'm shocking, right? Here we are in 2024 and can't figure it out. I mean, I thought we had this down to a science, you know. Whatever happened to the old electric chair?
Yeah, that's an unusual situation, Joe, because let's face it, if you're getting the death penalty, once you're dead, that's pretty much it for this world, right? But it's the lead up. I don't care how strong you are, the lead up to the execution's got to be the worst part. If the guy already went through that and the state can't carry it out, to me, that sentence has been served, right?
That kind of, if you survive the attempt, then there should be, like, you know, you can't be tried twice, right? One of those things.
Alabama, that's on you, right?
Right. Hey, I held up my part of the bargain, right? I showed up. You couldn't pull it off. I should be able to just sit in prison for the rest of it. You know, maybe that's what it needs to be, right? I don't know. That's I didn't think about that, right? Hey, if you get the death penalty and you survive, then they don't get to kill you again, right? That's right. Kind of...
Yeah, this guy was broken, man. This guy, so when they put him back in the cell when they failed, he was curled up in the fetal position for like a day or two. He was so messed up. So, yeah, there's the cup half empty part of it, Joe. Yeah, they destroyed this guy. This guy was this guy was already in prison on death row, and that made it even that much worse.
Yeah, so...
Crazy stuff, Joe. Crazy stuff.
Crazy, right? It is. I mean... Wow, I was reading about it. I'm like, man, you're kidding me. That's the best we can do, right?
Second time, too. Second guy. It says happened twice there.
And even that wasn't
Alabama.
that good, apparently, right? You know, I don't know. It just, yeah, there you go. We got a lot of things to talk about. We got inflation data out today, you know, and, of course, the inflation that doesn't track the inflation, the PCE deflator. Jason, they pulled it off. 2.9. So, yes, they got just below that 3% number. And I want to remind everybody, because they're acting like they accomplished something great. That is essentially 50% higher than what they say they want the rate to be. I mean, which is nowhere in the ballpark, right? Nowhere. If this was like a test in school, you just got a 50%. Yeah, that's an F, right? That is something where any other point in history, right, you'd be saying, oh, my gosh, we need to – how many times are we going to raise rates, right? I mean, do we need to raise rates 2 times, 3 times, 4 times? And instead, of course, they're talking about cutting the rates. But, yeah, the number they were expecting 0.3, got 0.2, 2.9%. Year over year, the non-durable goods number actually accelerated. Also, service costs also accelerated. Ex-shelter, we did see a 0.3% month-on-month increase. So there's a little bit of everything in there. We've been talking a lot about insurance rates, the fastest pace since the 1970s. So another comparison here with the 70s now. Automobile insurance rising at the fastest rate since the 70s. And Jason, they're now saying automobile car insurance is up 20%. I mean, that's a big number. That is a really big number. You know, it's one thing when, gas prices go up 20% because gas can come down. Your car insurance rates, they don't come down. So 20% matching what we saw in the 70s. But don't worry, if we don't track inflation, then we don't have to tell you there is any. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Friday. Quick look in. The Dow's up 100. The Nasdaq's up 6, 4,900. I'm sorry, the S&P's up 6, 4,900 on the S&P. The Nasdaq's up a single point. Gold is flat here, 2017. Silver pretty much flat as well, 22.87. The 10-year note, also kind of flat today, 414. Crude oil at $77. And, the countdown to March is coming. If you're looking for a way to be more diversified, check out our friends over at Y-Refi. Up to 10.25% fixed rates of return, not correlated to Wall Street. Doesn't care. I mean, we can have all-time record highs every day. Doesn't matter. We can have the stock market go down 5,000 points. Doesn't matter, right? Jeff Gundlach today. Hey, the Fed's not cutting rates, and Wall Street's way overpriced. I don't know, right? It depends on who you talk to. Everybody's got an opinion. Probably a pretty good idea, maybe to take some of that hard-earned money and get something where it's going to be constant. Like I said, up to 10.25%. It doesn't change. Fixed rate month after month. Turn your income on, off, whatever you want. Like I said, the minimum, you got to have at least $50,000. You can use an existing IRA. If you got way too much money in your bank account, right, there's another way to do it. Just call them at 888-Y-REFI-24 or go out to investYREFI.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. And check it out. Jason, 23,000 layoff announcements out of the tech industry in January alone. We had Microsoft announce layoffs, IBM announced layoff, Vroom, looks like they may be done. They laid off 90% of their staff. Then, just in the last 24 hours, Levi Strauss, Rite Aid, Business Insider. We're starting to see some. We saw jobless claims yesterday, still higher, but not alarming. But this one caught my eye. The second largest aluminum smelter in America is going to shut down this weekend. They made the announcement yesterday. 263,000 tons a year came out of this plant. Employed 450 union workers. I don't know how many contractors and whatnot. The announcement another blow. Here it was. They just said the cost of power. It's just gotten too expensive. No longer made it conducive. By the way, here in the United States, we had 23 smelting plants in 1998. With the loss of this plant here in Missouri, we're down to 4. And this one was the second largest one. So there's 3 others that I guess are a little bit smaller. But Jason, again, one of these things, we talk about it, but we don't really talk about it. They said, well, it's been really cold. And when it gets cold, we got to run with more power. We need more power. Can't do it. They said that maybe somebody will invest later and they can reopen, but without a new investor, not going to happen.
And this is just aluminum, or is it smelting of any type? Because
well, it says aluminum smelter, so.
So, I mean, I can see that where there's smelters that are specifically aluminum. I get that. But for them to be closing down, first of all, it's like, well, where's the aluminum going? The first question, where's the aluminum going to go? It's not like they're going to stop using aluminum. And then number 2, it's like, well, if they're not smelting it, somebody else is, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? We know where it's going, right? It's going back, to China. It's going to Mexico, right? Maybe India. I guess it's not going to be done here. It's going to be interesting to see if we see more of these as it goes on, because, there was a bunch of companies that said, oh, we're going to restart up here in America. This was one of them. And now they're like, you know what? That was a bad idea. And out the door we go again. And as these inflationary costs set in. I know they came out with this report today, said, oh, don't worry, look how great we are. This PCE deflator that doesn't really track inflation. Hey, it's down to 2.9. Right? And look at right, yes, that's what we, of course it's nowhere near where they want it to be, or tell us they want it to be. But somehow I get the feeling this is perfect for them, right? Hey, any number that's close to 3%, we're going to say is a good number.
I guess they're probably saying it's less than 3 then. See, it's less than 3. It's in the 2s. There's that number. We said 2. It's in the 2s. Yeah. I wonder how much fudging they did to get it to 2.9.
Well, yeah.
You erase a couple numbers out of the equation and you get to 2.9, right?
So we talked yesterday about the emergency banking program. And, of course, the Federal Reserve saying it's going to close March 11th. And, oh, by the way, we're going to stop the banks from making money by going to this window. And they want to start making all the banks go to the discount window, which is a bad window to be at. The number came in hotter than expected. So the banks, now granted, they made the announcement in the middle of the week. But, Jason, another $6 billion going into this $6.3 billion, almost now $170 billion in this facility. And then on top of this, so think about, and again, we keep talking about it, but it's important. The reverse repos going to run out of money at the end of March. Next week, I want to say next Wednesday, we're going to get the Treasury's refinancing. So remember, all the deficits we're reporting, they're actually higher than that because the checkbook keeps falling down. They're going to boost it back up. We expect it to be another, somewhere, 125 billion more dollars of debt that needs to be absorbed. This lending facility is expiring. They want to hear about Fed rate cuts. And also, Jason, right, they want to hear about the end of quantitative tightening, or at least the winding down, all of that in just the next 6 weeks alone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that it just seems like they're timing for lowering the rates and then trying to save Wall Street from really having a downward cycle. And it also feels like, Joe, because these things sometimes move a lot slower. You would think, okay, they're going to lower rates. They might save Wall Street from going down. They'll stop quantitative tightening. This should be a big boost to the markets. I mean, with the inflation still sitting there, as I've said, we should see prices climbing on everything. And I'll say this, when it comes to the presidential election season, even when Republicans are there, but especially when the Democrats are there for re-election, they always want to ramp up the market so they can point to how great Biden did. Trump has already said it. He doesn't want to be the next Hoover. If he gets elected, you can see Trump already knows the markets are going to fail here soon. And I think he's worried that they're going to prop it up this year and it's going to crash if he gets elected. And he's already trying to make sure to ahead of time say, well, it's not my fault when I get elected. So even Donald Trump is kind of feeding into the, hey, we're looking at some tough times and there ain't nothing I can even do about it. He's preparing that way. He doesn't get.
Well, it points out all the lengths that they're going to this list to try to keep this thing going. Now, listen, we had GDP yesterday. It was a great number. As long as you're okay with the fact that the government's got to go trillions and trillions of dollars into a number like that. And that's really kind of the problem. Even the discount window. $2.29, almost $2.3 billion being borrowed at the discount window, which is kind of odd. I mean, if you have the other facility, why would you use the discount window facility? But again, I think this is what's going to happen in March. I think what we're going to see in March when this program ends is, Jason, all these banks are just going to go from that window to the discount window, which is not nearly as friendly to those banks. And, of course, the Federal Reserve is trying to now make this. This used to be a bad thing, right? If a bank was at the discount window, that meant there's trouble. The Fed pretend that it isn't all of a sudden now, oh no, it doesn't mean trouble anymore. Matter of fact, we're going to try to get all the banks to use the discount window. That way, people won't think it's that bad, Jason, right? You know, again, it's absolute nonsense. It doesn't make any sense, but this is the world we live in now, right? We got a 2.9% fake inflation's great, right? Even though they're saying it's only supposed to be 2%. Of course, remember what that means. 3% of your money, right, is gone. Do that in 10 years, you've lost 30% of your money, right? Something that used to cost $70,000, right? It's going to cost you $100,000. Well, 90-some thousand, but you get my drift, Jason. It really is delusional, the markets that we pretend to live in.
You know what the GDP was before in the late 70s, or, right before the late 70s, early 80s, when the inflation came roaring back. Here's the yearly GDP numbers for 76, 77, 78. It was 5.4, 4.6, and 5.5. Nice GDP numbers, and then that big, huge rebound of the inflation came in 79, 80, and 81. The GDP was doing great, Joe. It was doing great.
Well, you know what, though? That highlights what we're talking about. So think about those numbers Jason was giving, okay? That was with budget deficits, $50 billion. 70 billion, stuff like that. Now we're not talking fours and fives, right? We're talking three with a deficits of $2+ trillion, right? They didn't add 1 zero. Jason, they're adding 2 zeros. I mean, that's the difference. We're getting less growth, and this is kind of the big thing that came out of the data yesterday. When you really looked at GDP numbers, and of course, look how great they are. Not really when you really dug into it. Did we really purchase all those RVs? I don't know. But I know what happened for healthcare spending went off the charts, right? And government debt went off the charts. I mean, that's just what it is right now. For $1 of growth, you're talking about $2.50 of debt to get $1 of growth. That math just doesn't hunt for very long. And that's kind of the problem. We see it in the bond market every single week now.
That's right, Joe. That's right. So it's very likely we're just, like we've been saying, it's a slow-moving stress in the markets, and we might just be seeing the beginning of what's getting ready to come. So 2024 is really the year that I think more people are going to figure it out, Joe, that things are not right. People are going to figure it out. By the end of this year, people are going to figure it out. And then 2025, 2026, however many years it gets for whatever they're going to try to turn this thing into, that'll be the next couple of years, Joe. But this is the year that it starts. This is when I think the average guy in the street's really going to look around, wait a minute, this isn't right, And doesn't most everybody we talk to say things don't look right now? Everyone's waiting for the second shoe to drop, so to speak, aren't they?
I know what it is, right? And it hasn't dropped. Let's be honest, it hasn't dropped yet. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up this Friday here. Gold's up $1 here, 2019. Silver flat on the day, $22.90. Today's special, yesterday, we're running those $5 liberties, $5.75, 20 or more, $5.70 at 800-951-0592. I think as we get into January, I think this is when we're going to get into February, get closer to March. I think we're going to start seeing that dollar weakness as the Fed starts letting us know. Look at what they did. They let us know yesterday, hey, the bank lending facility program, that's done. Right? Come the 11th of March, we're not using that anymore. They're going to go to the discount window, and already the discount window is starting to rise. We're expecting them to announce the starting of the wind down of quantitative tightening, right? We're already hearing some of that talk, right? Lori Logan, the Dallas Fed, she was already saying, hey, we need to get this program set up. Are we going to hear about rate cuts, or at least the talk of rate cuts? And obviously the reverse repo running out of money. So if you're going to be buying, right, I think that window before March is a good opportunity today. $5 gold liberties, 1 through 19, $5.75, 20 or more at $5.70. On the half-empty cup, we talk a lot about immigration, not so much on this show, but when it comes to financial, we got to start talking about it. They spent, at least what they're admitting to, over $20 billion from the federal government side. But Denver Health up in Colorado warning that their CEO was saying, hey, we're being overrun. We're starting to have to turn down patients. They said Denver Health is at a critical point that needs to be addressed, and needs to be addressed now. 8,000 migrants accounted for 20,000 visits in 2023, and Denver Health says the Federal Emergency Management Agency isn't providing enough funds, right? They're not getting enough money from the government to pay for it. They're saying that the hospital says that they've spent $136 million on patients who did not pay. The entire health system is overwhelmed with cost of care. And again, right, think about what insurance is doing. Why is this happening? It's going to keep going up. You don't think this affects you? It absolutely does. Uninsured patients, particularly, and of course they say migrants, let's call it what it is, illegal aliens, 36,000 have arrived in Denver since 2020. So think about this. 36,000 what they say since 2022. Okay? 36,000, 20,000 visits, and these are like to the emergency room. So essentially, let's call it what it is. They're going to medical care facilities. Everyone, at least everyone's going at least once, if not multiple times. But Jason, it really is overwhelming when you think about it. And Denver Health is saying, "Hey, we're going to run out of money."
Yeah, you were covering insurance quite a bit yesterday and in previous weeks, Joe. So compound what you're talking about with, I was curious after you talking more and more about insurance. I dug around a little bit, and one of the guys I watch videos on, he did a video on it. Maybe we'll play this in the Half Empty Cup of Joe. Maybe we'll go this direction next hour. But the top 10 insurance companies, and it's probably more than 10, but for sure the top 10 insurance providers in the country colluded together to raise prices exponentially, and then they went and they all put pressure on the state commissioners to relax the regulations so that they can just charge whatever they want, and the state commissioners allowed it. So it's not just inflation and the cost of doing business for insurance companies. They said they want to make more money. They just said it. We want to make more money. And you got the illegal aliens flooding the hospitals with no insurance, and then the people that are trying to pay for health insurance are getting doubled. They're going to be doubled and tripled in health care insurance, in life insurance, in homeowners insurance, in car insurance, because, well, yeah, you guys have troubles paying insurance rates, but we need to get paid more. And the top 10, when the top companies in the country, I mean, all the big ones you can name, they all linked arms and went after the state commissioners and pushed it. It's incredible when this guy talks about. He looked up all the documents. It's a dark, ominous cloud for people who like insurance, Joe, and for people who just want to be able to go and get health care.
Well, and just think about like car insurance. You know what's going to happen. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. Right? People are going to either increase their deductibles, right, to try to lower payments, or, some of them are like, hey, I just can't afford it. I'm going to have to risk it, right? I'm going to have to drive without insurance, right? And, of course, what does that do? That it just raises the cost for everybody else when they do get into accidents. And it's the same thing here on the health side, right? And of course, we are based in Arizona and Colorado, right? So this was a Colorado story. Just write your city in it, right? This is not exclusive to Denver Health, right? This is happening all over the country because it truly is. It's an invasion. It's crazy to think about. In 1 year, from December of 2022 to December of 2023, 36,000 according to Denver, which 20,000 of them ended up in the emergency room.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too good, Joe. There's nothing good about that.
Those numbers don't work, right? What do you think the numbers are skewed? Because they're sicker in Denver than they are somewhere else? Come on, this is happening everywhere.
This is why I do everything I can not to see a doctor ever. I don't want to see a doctor. I don't want to see a hospital. And let's be real. I mean, if you get into a car wreck and you're bleeding out, they're going to put you in first. At least in American hospitals, from what I've seen, you're still going to be first in line if you're almost dying. So to me, Joe, your health care is in your hands. You have to take care of yourself as best you can because nobody else is really trying very hard to take care of you. Insurance companies want record profits, and people coming into the country illegally are just pushing the weight of their political situation, which is they're allowed in. That's a tough situation, Joe, for especially for the healthcare side.
Yeah, and it's emergency room. You can't turn them away, right? That's kind of the rule, right? Hey, you're at the emergency room. They're obligated to see you. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up this Friday. $5 Liberties, 1 through 19, $5.75. 20 or more, $5.70 at 800-951-0592. I'll just say this, Janet Yellen, she's, and I said it way back when, dangerous woman. Because she is a big believer in more power for banks and more power for government. Remember, let's not forget, go big. Remember her go big comments? She's also the master, her and Ben Bernanke, of the 2% inflation target. That never used to exist. They just made it up. Right? Oh, we're just going to make up a number. Of course, when that number is no good, they'll make up a different number. She's out there talking about, oh, it's fine. Yeah, no, don't worry. It's not, the GDP growth. It's not because of all the debt and the government spending way down. No. It signifies productivity improvement, Jason. See? If I just call it something else, it's not inflation. No, it's just the cost of improving productivity. That's what it is. It's not spending $2 and $3 trillion more than we have. It's not all the bank bailouts and all of those things. No. It's just productivity improvement. See, everything's fine. It's okay that you can't afford a house. It's okay that you can't afford a new car. Heck, now, you know what? It's okay if you can't afford health insurance, and it's okay if you can't afford your car insurance, Jason, because it's productivity improvement.
Yeah, and just to keep people on to understand. Wealthy business people and people that understand economics, they don't collect a lot of money. They collect things, and no matter how much that loaf of bread or that gallon of gas costs, there's only so much you need to drive yourself around. There's only so many bites of food you need every day. So if your income, whatever that may be, is more than the inflated cost of goods and services for you, and of course then you add your family, inflation doesn't hurt you as bad, especially when the things that you own are raising in value and keeping up with the inflation. So those guys in Washington, D.C., they are getting paid way too much and getting a lot of money under the table. And anybody who doesn't think that someone in Washington, D.C. is not getting money under the table, I think it's just a part of that's a part of the business model now. I go to Congress, I get paid when I do what the big money tells me to do. They put that money into businesses. They put it into commodities. They put it in the stock market with stocks that actually have companies that aren't going to go belly up in the next few years. And when the inflation hits, their saved value goes up. And now the guy that lives paycheck to paycheck, he can't save anything. There's not much Joe and I can do for you. We have the metals program, which I highly suggest that you start doing what anybody that has a financial advice company, they say you got to pay yourself first. Well, if you don't have a lot of extra, but you do, a lot of people, they do the automatic bill pay. Oh, well, my electric bill, it just comes right out of my check. Well, then why not just have your metals program come right out of your check? That way, every quarter we call you up and you get things that are going to go up in value with this inflation, because these rich people, they got there for a reason. They understand how it works. They don't care if there's inflation. They're going to buy their bananas and they're going to buy their gallon of milk and they're going to be able to buy their gas, their heating bill. And they're going to have plenty left over. But the average guy, Joe, you just slide farther and farther down. And I don't know about you, Joe, but I really don't want to end up in the same economic situation as people cross the border illegally, paycheck to paycheck. Because that's what they seem to love, these guys. They want them to cross the border. They want tons of these guys to come and work paycheck to paycheck. And what the funny thing is about a lot of these illegals, they're pretty smart. They send the money back home. And they buy things in Mexico that are cheaper, and they build their future. A lot of these guys that cross the border, they send all this money back, and they build their future in Mexico or in whatever Central American or South American country they came from. It seems to me, Joe, that people cross the border in a lot of ways, not all of them, but a lot of them just have better business sense. Do you remember that story, Joe, I've told, where a guy that I knew, remember, he was a locksmith, and he was going to, somebody locked their keys in the car. It was a Hispanic woman, and he went up to their apartment, and there was these Hispanic ladies. They got stacks of tortillas and pounds of ground beef, and they're making burritos. Put in the aluminum foil and putting in, they're selling burritos, and it's like, oh, okay, there's some capitalistic ladies there. Well, like a week or two later, he goes grocery shopping at late nights, back when the grocery stores are still open late, and he ended up in line behind the lady that he helped get her car unlocked. And what did she have? She had stacks of tortillas and low quality grade ground beef, cheap burrito toppings. Hands over her food stamp card, the EBT card, paid for the whole thing. I mean, you could say that's corrupt or bad or whatever. You can say whatever you want. The government gave her the money, and she's made money doing it. That's what you have to do. Unfortunately, whether you like that, if you think it's good or bad, that's what you have to do. You have to make your money count, Joe. Put it in a business. Put it in gold and silver. Put it somewhere. But don't have it floating around out there, because that's what they want. They want you to amass money and love money and be a part of the cult that is the Federal Reserve money system. The Federal Reserve, their money has their name across the top of it. It's not your money. Right, Joe? Dodd-Frank tells you as much.
Listen, it's not your money. It's absolutely true. Right? And we run that commercials, all these years later. Listen, the second you put that money in the bank, it's not yours. It's not. Right? And this is how it works. And this is why we say having all that money in the bank, that's a fool's game, especially when it comes crashing down. Because remember, they rewrote the rule book. You don't think that the 07 crash is going to happen again, 08, the banking crisis? They didn't fix it. They just printed a bunch more money because they know, hey, well, we're just kicking it down the road. But the next time, the law is going to be different, right? It's not going to be a government bailout. No. It's going to be all the people that got money in the bank. You're going to bail it out. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592, final segment of the week here. $5 Liberties, 1866 to 1907, 1 through 19, 575, 20 or more, 570 at 800-951-0592. Now, don't forget, right? The Bank of International Settlements, right? The central bank's bank said, yes, we're working on. Don't worry. Yes, we're going to focus in on privacy for all of these central bank digital currencies, right? And again, like it's not happening. Okay, you're right. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not to be outdone, yesterday, the Bank of England comes out and says a digital pound, the primary legislation that will be introduced, we're going to guarantee privacy and control. See? Don't you love that? Look at we're going to give you privacy, but wait, we're going to guarantee control. Right? So they're going to be in control of our privacy or lack thereof, Jason. It's another one of those reasons why a lot of people are putting some gold and silver away to just say, you know what, there's some things I don't want you to know about, and I don't want to be controlled. And it's one of those things where all of these central banks are all saying the same thing. Oh, don't worry. No, we're gonna work on this privacy, but don't worry, we're still gonna have control.
Saw another video. Was it Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank?
European Central Bank. Yep.
We just need, we can't have them having private ways. You say the terrorist attacks of 10 years ago, they use these shopper cards, and we could not monitor this, and we can't have this. There will be no privacy. And then you announced last week, I think, the Fed announced that there's a fourth meaning of what money is, saying that it's about social control, and then Justin Trudeau. This other video I was watching, several central bank heads across the world in Europe talking about, well, we need this kind of control. They're just saying it out loud now. We need this for control over people and their spending and what they're doing. And they're just it's mindless. It's like it's something that Fidel Castro would say, or Stalin, or somebody, right? This is what Mao would say. So, well, I need to control the people. What would Mao do with a central bank digital currency?
I love it though, because you're right. They're just being flat out. Oh, we're going to say privacy, but control's going to be in there. Don't worry, right? We're going to, and of course, what do they really say? Hey, we're going to control your privacy. We're going to determine what privacy you have or what privacy you don't have, and we need to be able to monitor everything that you're doing.
It's going to be how much privacy can you buy? Isn't that how it is? Because I'll bet those people in Washington, D.C. have a little level of privacy, don't they, when they have their weird get-togethers and parties, right?
Zuckerberg's going to be fine in his bunker. Yeah. Remember, they tell you know what? How bad cows are. Yet Zuckerberg's got his own little cattle herd, right? No, you guys won't be able to have any. But I'll take care of myself. That's what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. It's headed our way, Joe. It's heading our way. Gold and silver is pretty private, pretty private. Put it in your pocket. Nobody else is even in there. You can put an ounce of gold in your wallet. Nobody even knows you have it, Joe.
Never would know. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming back with the half-empty cup. Stay with us.